Well, my friends, I think we finally did it. We found the dumbest Republican in the country. And no, it's not Marjorie Taylor Greene or Randy Fine. It's actually Representative Kat Cammack of Florida's 3rd Congressional District. And the reason why I can definitively say that she is unquestionably the dumbest Republican in the country is because she herself, who's anti-abortion, needed an abortion, but hypocrisy aside, she is blaming the left for making it more difficult for her to get the abortion that she needed, not Republicans. Let me repeat myself just in case you think you misheard me. She says that it is the left's fault that her doctor was afraid to give her the health care that she needed to save her life, not Republicans, not Ron DeSantis, who signed the law that affected her personally. It's the left. I'll give you a moment to let that sink in. Yeah. Now, the pregnancy in question took place last year, but the reason why we're talking about this now is because she opened up about it in an interview with the Wall Street Journal titled "Life-Threatening Pregnancy Collided with Florida's Abortion Politics." And the author of the article, Katie Stech-Farrick, explains, a month into Florida's 6-week abortion ban, Republican Representative Kat Cammack went to the ER with a deadly ectopic pregnancy and struggled to get prompt care. She blames the left. So, yeah, Kat? Can I call you Kathy? Is that your full name? Maybe it's Kathy, but I'll call you Kathy. Kathy, how exactly did you come to this brilliant conclusion? Like, this is wild. On one hand, I feel bad because she went through this obviously traumatizing experience, but to come out of that with somehow less clarity than before she went in with it is a little bit puzzling to me, just on a human level. Now, before we dive in and like see how the fuck she twisted herself into a pretzel to blame the left for this, I just want to point out that this is somebody who is very, very anti-abortion. Even though she's not personally responsible for the law in Florida that affected her, since she's not a state representative, she is a national lawmaker, she has been doing everything in her power to make reproductive health care more difficult for women across the country. As difficult as it is in Florida, arguably. I say this because she is a co-chair of an anti-abortion committee in Congress, and she received an A+ rating for her anti-abortion record from the Susan B. Anthony Forced Birther Group, who gave her 100% for her anti-abortion record. Specifically, she voted against the DoD reimbursing travel expenses for women who have to go out of state to get abortions. She also voted in favor of defunding NGOs who promote abortions overseas to women who are in developing countries that don't have access to abortion. She also co-sponsored legislation to stop abortion drugs from being sent through the mail. She also signed on to the Hyde Amendment, which would block federal funds from going to reproductive health care, so that way women with lower incomes wouldn't be able to get abortion through Medicaid. And these are just some of the anti-abortion policies that she's voted for or co-sponsored. But ironically, if all of the anti-abortion policies she supported actually became law, there's a chance she'd be dead right now. So for her sake, I'm glad that she failed to enact the totality of her radical agenda. With that being said, I do want to hear about what happened when she needed an abortion, so that way we can try to figure out why she's blaming the left. Edward Helmore of The Guardian summarizes the Wall Street Journal interview, where he writes, Kat Cammack went to the emergency room in May of 2024, where it was estimated she was 5 weeks into an ectopic pregnancy. There was no heartbeat and her life was at risk. Doctors determined she needed a shot of methotrexate to help expel her pregnancy. But since Florida's 6-week abortion ban had just taken effect, medical staff were worried about losing their licenses or going to jail if they did. Cammack looked up the state law on her phone to show staff and even attempted to contact the governor's office. Hours later, doctors eventually agreed to give her the medication. Abortion rights activists say the law created problems. Florida regulators say ectopic pregnancies are not abortions and are exempt from restrictions. But Molly Duane with the Center for Reproductive Rights told the Wall Street Journal the law does not define ectopic pregnancy, which can be difficult to diagnose. Allison Haddock, the president of the American College of Emergency Physicians, told the outlet care in early pregnancy is a medically complicated space and that doctors in abortion-restricted states worry whether their clinical judgment will stand should there be any prosecution. Okay, first of all, I just want to point out that it seems like it's lost on her that she was able to easily contact the governor to assuage fears of her medical providers. Seems like she didn't get through, but she knows the governor, and had he picked up the phone, obviously he would have told them that they would have been safe to perform the procedure or give her the medication that she needed in this instance. But ordinary women, they don't have that same privilege. They don't have immediate access to the governor who can soothe the concerns of medical providers who need to offer them specific care related to their pregnancies. So I feel like she should be thankful that she got the procedure she needed, because that might not have been the case if she wasn't a lawmaker. They could simply Google her and see, oh, this is a lawmaker, so obviously we're more protected if we do what she wants. But a normal woman who just works at Taco Bell, she doesn't have that luxury. But the question is, what kind of mental gymnastics did she do to arrive at the conclusion that it was the left's fault that it was so hard for her to get an abortion? Because based on this story, it doesn't seem like that's the case, right? But I mean, maybe there's some details that we haven't yet discovered. Were the medical providers blue-haired feminists wearing keffiyehs? Were they like extreme left and they saw that she was a Republican and said, we're not going to serve that Republican? Well, no. Here's her logic. Quote, Cammack, who opposes abortion and co-chairs the House pro-life caucus, told the Wall Street Journal she blames messaging from pro-choice groups for delaying her treatment, which is not banned under Florida's restrictive statutes, who have created fear of criminal charges. Quote, it was absolute fear-mongering at its worst, Cammack told the publication, but acknowledged that abortion rights groups might interpret her experience differently and blame Republican-led restrictive anti-abortion laws for the issue. Yeah, no fucking shit. There will be some comments like, well, thank God we have abortion services, even though what I went through wasn't an abortion, she told the outlet. Well, of course not. If it were a Democrat in that same position as her, she'd call them a baby killer. But since it's her, well, you know, it's not an abortion. It's just regular health care. Amazing. So as you can see, there are layers to the mental gymnastics that she's doing. First of all, she doesn't think that this was an abortion, but it was. She was given methotrexate. Now, yes, this is typically a drug used to treat autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis and lupus, but it's also used to terminate pregnancies in the early stages. And after Roe v. Wade was overturned, methotrexate became one of the medications that was a lot harder to access because it's used to end pregnancies. And this didn't just affect pregnant people like her who needed to end life-threatening pregnancies. It affected people who have these diseases that needed to be treated. This is why abortion bans are so harmful, because even though Republicans concoct this image of a woman randomly eating their fetus into a fucking garbage can a day or two before it's born, in actuality, it's a lot more complicated than that. It's why politicians like her shouldn't be able to impose limits on the types of care doctors should be able to offer, especially as it relates to an individual's bodily autonomy, because politicians don't know what they're talking about, whereas doctors do. They know what's best for their patients. But when it comes to her blaming the left's fear-mongering on her doctor's reluctance to give her the healthcare that she needed, well, let's explore that a little bit. As the Kaiser Family Foundation points out, there are criminal penalties for doctors in 11 states if they're convicted of violating abortion bans. And in states like Texas and Alabama, that includes the potential for life in prison. And while no doctor has yet been convicted of violating a state's abortion ban, one doctor from New York is being fined in Texas and charged in Louisiana for violating their state's anti-abortion laws. And a patient of Dr. Carpenter has spoken out to defend her, saying that her care saved her life. So of course, in this climate, doctors are going to be worried about whether or not some radical Republican attorney general is going to accuse them of not following the law if they happen to disagree about whether or not a particular woman was sick enough to qualify for an exception to a state's abortion ban. They could lose their licenses or go to jail if they make an incorrect decision that is viewed as subjective to Republican politicians such as Kat Cammack. Furthermore, we're in a climate where women increasingly are being questioned by police and even arrested after they have miscarriages. We've talked about these stories on the channel before, so suffice to say, I don't think people are wrong to be paranoid since Republicans like Kat Cammack fostered this environment in the first place. Yet, she's blaming the left for the atmosphere that she helped to create. Make it make sense. But the question is, has her own experience changed her mind even a little bit? Because I feel like something like this would get me personally to reevaluate my position. And she actually does claim that it has. She says, I would stand with any woman, Republican or Democrat, and fight for them to be able to get care in a situation where they are experiencing a miscarriage and an ectopic pregnancy, she said. Now, that's great. Everybody is capable of changing their mind and actions as a result of an experience like that. But she's completely insincere. Right? And I'm not saying that she's insincere because Republicans typically don't care about any issues until they're personally affected by it. And only then they pay lip service to it, but don't actually change. Sure, that's certainly the case here. But I'm saying she's insincere because months after she had a life-threatening pregnancy and needed an abortion herself, she was already on Fox News, knowing that we didn't know yet that she had an abortion, attacking Kamala Harris for being too extreme on the issue of abortion. Let's hear it straight from the horse's mouth.
She absolutely is the most radical when it comes to the issue of protecting life and young children, particularly those most vulnerable, those in the womb. And we know, as you pointed out, there are 9 states that have no restrictions on abortion. And across the country, we have several states, over a dozen, that have state ballot initiatives like Florida to have that same issue, unrestricted abortion, be put on the ballot, the Constitution. So it's very, very scary that we have someone who is a contender for commander-in-chief who is not willing to take a stand for women, for the health of women. As we all know, abortion is not health care, and unrestricted abortion is very, very dangerous. So it's really it's very discouraging to hear someone, particularly a woman, talk about it with such glib.
So months after she learned about the dangers of restrictions on reproductive health care, she was on Fox News talking about how dangerous unrestricted abortions are, and even said that abortion is not health care. Well, it sure the fuck felt like health care to you when you needed one, right, Kat? So much so that you were willing to call the governor on the phone to get him to greenlight the procedure for you. How do you come to this conclusion? How do you not reevaluate your position? Now, again, keep in mind, at this point in time, she hadn't revealed to the public that she had an abortion, but she just had one a couple of months ago, and she's already shitting on abortion when abortion saved her fucking life just a couple of months prior. You can't make this shit up. These people are like fucking comic book villains. So, I mean, listen, if you're curious as to whether or not she's genuine, the answer obviously is no. She wants abortion care for herself if she needs it, but she doesn't think that the peasant women should be offered the same care. And in this next clip, you're going to begin to understand why she's so passionate about this issue and refuses to change her mind even after having an abortion herself. It's because she says that she herself is an abortion survivor, and she even teared up while talking about how she was nearly aborted.
You almost were aborted, and I'd love for our viewers to hear that story.
You know, as you know, Rachel, this is a personal issue for me. My mom, she had suffered a stroke in her late 20s while pregnant with my sister and was told that she would never be able to have children safely again. And when she found herself pregnant with me many years later, against the advice of her doctors and her own family, she carried me to term, and she was under a tremendous amount of pressure to abort me. So I am grateful for her bravery today. Oh, I'll get emotional. You know, it's just a tough issue because so many women are in difficult circumstances, and there's so many wonderful pregnancy centers out there that can help them. And when we see things like Amendment 4 on the ballot in Florida, where there's no parental consent, there is no physician required to perform these abortions, meaning that any healthcare provider in the state of Florida, which could be a chiropractor, a dental hygienist, an acupuncturist, it is absurd what this language does. It's all funded by George Soros and his folks that support these liberal policies. This is something that women across the country need to understand. We have struggled to really get true women's health care and maternal health care in this country. And the policies of Kamala Harris and the left, they are not focused on that. They are absolutely radical when it comes to abortion. And every Democrat in the last Congress, I have to remind viewers, they voted for abortion up until the day of natural delivery. That, to me, is absolutely unacceptable.
I'm sorry, but listen, I am not going to feel sympathy for a 37-year-old woman who's making it seem like she has to live with the trauma of her mom being pressured to get an abortion. As if she's reliving it every single day. Kat, you have to stop. Okay, listen, I'm the same exact age as Kat Cammack. So let me level with her for a minute. Kat, let me just talk to you directly. Like your mom, my mom was told that when she was pregnant with me, it was higher risk because she was older when she had me. So I guess you could say that by your logic, I'm also kind of an abortion survivor in a way. And I've got to tell you, you know, I don't have the same opinion as you do. When I was a fetus, it's not like I was listening to the conversation with my mom and her doctor and was on pins and needles, because I didn't exist yet. So I'm sorry, I can't not laugh at her melodramatic ass response because you're not a fucking victim. Okay, in the same way you wouldn't have been a victim if you ended up on a tissue paper or in an asshole on the night that you were conceived. You're not a fucking victim because your mom chose to not get an abortion. It's like saying, oh my God, I wouldn't be here because my parents actually were this close to not having sex on the night that I was conceived because they got in an argument. Like, what? None of us can control what happened before we were here, you dipshit. But what you can control is what happens now. And her surviving an abortion doesn't give her the right to deny life-saving healthcare to other people in a position that she was in just a couple of months ago or a year ago now. So the fact that she's, I'm sorry, I'm not over it. The fact that she's like, listen, this is personal to me because I was almost aborted. Girl, you don't remember that. And if you were aborted, there's nothing to be mad about because you wouldn't have been here to be pissed about it. Neither would I. Like, imagine being mad because you almost didn't exist. What kind of logic is this? Like, you must literally think that the universe revolves around you. But as you saw, she was encouraging people to vote against Florida's abortion ban in 2024. And she was saying this, again, after she was just negatively affected by that same fucking law. Isn't that wild? Holy shit, these people are demons. Now, when she said this, again, we didn't know that she had an abortion, but the added context makes her look so much worse. She looks like a terrible person because she is a terrible person. But she says that she decided to share this story that makes her look like a hypocrite because she's trying to help both sides find common ground, when all she ended up doing was making herself look like a dumbass, self-centered hypocrite who thinks that she deserves special treatment other women shouldn't get. Like, what the fuck? You think that this is going to help? Okay, thanks, Kat. I guess she made a contribution. Nonetheless, it's not one that's going to really move the needle in either direction. Now, with regard to her claim that Democrats want to abort fetuses up until the day they're born, that's a lie, and she knows it's a lie. If delivering a child would kill a mother, Democrats simply want the mother and her doctor to be able to choose who lives and who dies, not politicians. That's what it's about. It's about choice. But even though Kat Cammack has now experienced this firsthand, she still doesn't have any fucking empathy for other women in this predicament, which is sad, but not too surprising since she is a Republican after all.
Like everywhere there's glows, you see them all the time. I mean, it's constant. My children will be like, Mama, glow, 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 glow. I turn on TV, there's glows in the background. Every TV show, news media, why?
Glow, 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 glow. They're everywhere. Glow, 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 glow.